welcome back to my channel Oojamaflip Books. If you're new here, my name is Jo and I am a crime fiction, thriller, mystery, Nordic noir reader from the UK. Today's video is my first review on this channel, so apologies if it's kind of all over the place, because even though I've made notes, I still feel that I am very good at going on a tangent, and I feel like the tangent train is approaching and I will definitely be jumping on board. But yeah, so my first review, and the book that I'm reviewing today is A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. So this book has been on my to be read pile for a long time. So long in fact that it's out in paperback and I still have the hardback there waiting to be read. So yeah, I get that this isn't like the most finger on the pulse review because the book has been out for like 2 years, but we're going with it. If you don't know, this is the third book by Paula Hawkins. She's probably best known for The Girl on the Train, which got turned into a film with Emily Blunt, and her second book is called Into the Water. I've definitely read The Girl on the Train and I liked it. I feel like I may have read Into the Water, but it also, if I have, left no lasting impression on me whatsoever. So I read a bit of the synopsis of it on Goodreads to see if I had read it, because I'm not very good at keeping Goodreads up to date because I use Notion. Yeah, I feel like I've read it, but can't tell you anything about it. So I'm going to assume that that I have read like all of her previous works. So what is this book about? So in many ways, this is your standard whodunit, with the book focusing on who committed the murder of Daniel Sutherland. So the book basically centres on Miriam, Laura, who is the prime suspect, and then Carla and Theo, who are Daniel's aunt and uncle, who are having to come to terms with his murder just weeks after the death of Carla's sister and Daniel's mother. There's a few twists and turns and your general red herrings that you get in every whodunit, but that is generally, without any spoilers, the synopsis of the book is who killed Daniel Sutherland. So what did I think of the book? I think the title of the book is perfect because, wow, does it take a while to get going. The pacing for this book is just completely off in my opinion. The start was so slow, I felt like I was willing something to happen. There were so many times that I nearly just stopped reading completely, and like it felt like nothing was happening at all. And then you got halfway through the book and suddenly it was like a rush to get everything out and to try and wrap it all up. I think if I picked this book up and I'd seen that there were two authors' names on it, I feel like you could pinpoint the point where they like switched over between one author doing it and the other author. That's like how completely opposite ends of the scale the start and the end of the book are. I'm not sure if that slow start was intentional, because I think the title of the book is supposed to be the rage that's building in each of the characters over weeks, months and years, and so maybe it was like the slow start for the reader as well, but in my opinion it just didn't work. I found it very hard to actually get into the book. Each chapter of this book switches between the different characters to tell their element of the story from their point of view. I think in total there are 5. So there's Miriam, Laura, Carla, Theo and Irene, I think all tell parts of the story. But it's also got time jumps all over it, so sometimes we're decades before the murder, sometimes hours before the murder, or like the immediate aftermath of the murder, or a week later. Like, it's completely non-linear, which I usually really enjoy that type of book, but I think there were too many characters and too many time jumps that just made it very confusing when you're reading it, especially the first few chapters. There is also, because non-linear storyline and multiple characters telling the story isn't enough, a novel within a novel, which I understand maybe what Paula Hawkins was trying to do, but in many ways the novel that's in the novel is more interesting than the novel itself. So that's quite hard as well, trying to read, and you're switching between the novel that you're trying to read plus the one that's in the novel, and it's a very hard book to get into, I think, is my bottom line. I also feel like the characters weren't very well developed. Like, I felt nothing towards any of these characters, and I feel like that's a fundamental part of a whodunit. Like, you have to care about at least one character. I had no feelings towards any of them, and I'm not sure if that's because of how slow it was to get into the backstory of each character. It felt like it was very much pulling at teeth, the phrase, where it's like pulling at strings, pulling at teeth, pulling teeth, that's the one. I felt like I was pulling teeth trying to get backstory. I think the one exception to that is the character of Irene, who is introduced partway through the book. I feel like we get her backstory a lot quicker, and as such I kind of felt more of a connection to her. Having said that, I don't think that one character is enough to save the book, and the character development just feels really lacking. Another problem that I have with the characters is there is no voice of reason. So I know that Paula Hawkins, her thing is kind of the unreliable narrator. The Girl on the Train had it, and I think Into the Water did. Again, not 100% that I have read it. So I get that that's her writing style, is to have an unreliable narrator who, you have to basically work it out yourself as to what to trust and what to not. Every single person in this book was unreliable. They all had emotional baggage or mental health problems, and it just felt like too much. I needed some grounding, and it never appeared, ever. The ending of the book is incredibly predictable. I would say maybe a quarter of the way through the book I could see where it was going to go. There are some extra elements thrown in towards the end, but they're also unnecessary elements. It's almost like there was a pile of plot ideas and Paula Hawkins just picked one at random and went, let's add that in, and then never bothered to actually explain it. Like, I don't feel like reading a crime fiction book I should be left with more questions than answers at the end of it, especially when they're just unnecessary plot elements. Like, the only times I want to be left with lots of questions is if I'm reading a philosophy book and not just reading a piece of crime fiction. So in short, the attempt to connect everyone is unnecessary, and the non-linear timeline is confused by having far too many characters act as narrator. Overall, I would give this book 2 out of 5 stars. I did originally rate it as 3 stars, and I think that was because it was the excitement of being able to close the book and be like, yes, I'm done, I made it through. I feel like 2 stars is actually reflective of what I thought of the book, and I think it's pretty much largely forgettable. I will say I bought the Waterstones exclusive edition because I bought it in Waterstones. I don't know what was exclusive about it. It doesn't actually say. I am going to guess that the exclusivity bit is the map of locations, because other than that I don't know what there is that's exclusive about it. Yeah, I basically wouldn't recommend the book. So if you've read this book, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it, and if you want to see more book hauls and reviews, then hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!